step of filing a lawsuit against Ryan Reynolds. For months, rumors of behind-the-scenes turmoil had reverberated across social media, but no one imagined matters would escalate this dramatically. At the heart of this legal battle lies not only Ryan's beloved Deadpool character, a cornerstone of the franchise's future, but also the increasingly fraught maneuvers of Blake Lively. Once hailed as the shining counterpart to Ryan's comedic style, she now stands accused of playing a role in undermining the very universe her husband helped bring to new heights. In the midst of swirling allegations, Marvel's drastic decision signals that a star's off-screen controversies can indeed jeopardize a multi-billion-dollar brand. The chain reaction began innocently enough. Blake had signed on for a starring role in a new film adaptation, directed and co-written by Justin Baldoni. Hopes were high. Justin had garnered acclaim for heartfelt narratives, and Blake's track record pointed to a smooth, professional production. Early press images highlighted a radiant collaboration, both parties quick to praise each other in front of cameras. Nothing seemed amiss, until scattered whispers suggested Blake felt constrained by Justin's influence. After all, he wasn't just directing, he was shaping the screenplay and starring as well. Onlookers noted that Blake, used to having her opinions carry weight, might have bristled at a single person assuming so many key roles. Over time, rumors surfaced that Blake believed Justin was overshadowing her in both the creative process and the publicity sphere. Even so, she publicly maintained her usual charm, fielding interview questions with grace. The few cracks in her confident exterior, sudden topic shifts away from Justin's input, a clipped remark here or there, were so subtle that fans dismissed them as routine friction, yet the tabloids couldn't help but latch on, and a quiet hum of speculation gradually intensified. Then, in a striking turn, Blake asserted that Justin had orchestrated negative press against her, painting a picture of her as a demanding or self-absorbed star. Although Hollywood is no stranger to behind-the-scenes gossip and selective leaks, Blake's accusation felt substantial. She claimed Justin's wide-ranging creative control gave him access to numerous publicity channels, and that he had harnessed these connections to cast her in an unflattering light. Sympathy briefly tilted in her favor. After all, stories of female leads being negatively targeted by powerful male directors were not uncommon, yet this narrative began to crumble when Justin countered with thorough text messages. These communications suggested Blake was the one behind strategic leaks, and that she didn't work alone. The messages hinted she was referencing her robust network, especially her husband Ryan, as she pressed for script changes and promotional demands. She even dubbed certain individuals her dragons, threatening to deploy them if her goals were challenged. Suddenly, fans grappled with a jarring question. If these texts were authentic, how deeply had Blake mobilized Ryan's resources to ensure the film's spotlight stayed firmly on her? It didn't take long for insider buzz to link these revelations to Ryan's massive presence within Marvel. As star and producer of Deadpool, a property that revitalized the studio's R-rated potential, Ryan had become a linchpin. He was more than a leading man. He embodied a brand synergy that resonated with millions. Fans adored his sardonic humor, the way he blurred lines between actor and character on social media, and the comedic rivalry he staged with other Marvel personalities. If Blake truly called on Ryan to assist her, and if that assistance involved manipulating press coverage, it raised uncomfortable questions about how far he might go behind closed doors. Meanwhile, Marvel executives privately fretted that this fiasco could bleed into their carefully honed synergy with Ryan. People who had initially shrugged off the rumors began to worry that there might be real substance behind them. A pattern of controlling narratives and employing industry clout to tip the scales. Marvel prided itself on the positivity radiated by its core stars. Should the specter of manipulative tactics stain Deadpool's comedic image, it could deliver a serious financial and reputational blow to the company. As tension escalated, Ryan stayed conspicuously quiet, fueling more doubt about his role. For a time, Marvel remained silent. The studio typically maintains a cooperative relationship with its leading actors, especially if they anchor lucrative franchises. This approach had spelled success for them over a decade of interconnected storylines. Whenever controversies arose, Marvel usually handled them privately, confident in its ability to ride out storms that might topple lesser studios. But the Baldoni-Lively feud refused to subside. More screenshots emerged, fueling speculation that Ryan had indeed weighed in to secure an upper hand for Blake. At first, this seemed like a minor footnote, perhaps a supportive spouse, nothing more. Yet as the gossip machine devoured each new detail, a sense of alarm grew that Ryan's brand of comedic irreverence might mask something more calculated. The pivotal point arrived when a lawyer representing Blake, famed for defending major stars with quiet efficiency, dramatically withdrew, releasing a statement that cast doubt on her credibility. Hollywood collectively blinked. Attorneys rarely abandon high-profile clients, let alone publicly question their honesty. Almost overnight, Blake's once bulletproof reputation stumbled, and eyes turned toward Ryan to see if he too had a hand in shaping or distorting her storyline. Into this charged environment entered a series of revelations that forced the studio's hand. Insiders whispered that Marvel discovered internal memos and external communications, tying Ryan's camp to strategies that put undue pressure on other creative partners. A swirl of negativity hung around potential Deadpool spin-offs, cameo arcs in the main Marvel universe, and even outside tie-ins. Word was that Ryan, assisted by an inner circle that included or was heavily influenced by Blake, had prodded Marvel to grant ever greater creative control, hinting at major social media backlash if they didn't comply. Some within Marvel found it reminiscent of the same dragons concept Blake had brandished, a veiled threat that fan bases could be mobilized to apply public pressure. For a studio that invests colossal sums in building and protecting each superhero brand, the risk was untenable. Insiders mentioned that Kevin Feige and top executives convened multiple emergency meetings, reviewing potential outcomes, continuing with Ryan, despite the scandal, imposing a quiet renegotiation, or severing ties for the sake of the franchise. Ultimately, they chose an even bolder path: litigation. Marvel's official statement said the studio had initiated legal proceedings to safeguard its brand and interests, referencing newly obtained material that pointed to a breach of contract and possibly reputational harm. Though the exact details remain sealed, sources claim the lawsuit centers on alleged actions by Ryan, possibly aided by Blake, that threatened the viability of the Deadpool franchise and tarnished Marvel's brand integrity. The fandom erupted. Deadpool, ironically, had always been the irreverent trickster in Marvel's lineup, pushing boundaries in comedic ways the other heroes generally avoided. Many fans never thought that boundary pushing would translate into an actual rift with the studio. The suit signaled how deeply Marvel felt cornered, as it generally avoids public spats with top-tier talent. Ryan, once the unstoppable comedic champion, now appeared vulnerable, locked in a corporate dispute that could overshadow any goodwill he built with audiences. While the legal wheels turned, Justin Baldoni maintained a neutral stance. He adhered to the same approach he had used all along, releasing uncut messages whenever Blake or her team presented claims that seemed truncated. Far from gloating, Justin expressed regret that matters escalated so far that careers might be endangered. In interviews, he described the entire situation as a cautionary tale of how minor creative disagreements can explode when hidden agendas and star power come into play. He refrained from criticizing Marvel or Ryan, stating only that truth had an inconvenient way of surfacing. Once documents began to circulate, Blake, for her part, found the storm intensifying around her. Fans who once rallied to her side turned skeptical, particularly after her lawyer's public withdrawal. As the Marvel lawsuit made headlines, many started wondering if Blake's conduct had a direct link to Ryan's troubles. Was her behind-the-scenes push for leverage the final straw that made Marvel question Ryan's reliability as a collaborator? Could her high-profile dispute with Justin have forced Marvel to dig deeper into Ryan's dealings, leading them to discover questionable behavior that might otherwise have remained buried? Ryan's usual comedic persona vanished in response to the lawsuit. On social media, he posted only sporadic, neutral content, avoiding any mention of Marvel or Deadpool. No witty retorts, no humorous references to legal paperwork, just a tense silence. Insiders suggest he was in crisis management mode, conferring with legal teams to gauge whether counteraction might help, or if an out-of-court settlement was feasible. But with Marvel taking a firm stance, it was far from clear whether a settlement would suffice. The company, stung by so much negative press, might have found it essential to set a precedent. No single star, not even one who catapulted Deadpool into a global phenomenon, stands above brand preservation. Some producers speculated that if Ryan tried to spin this in public, he might come across as flippant. While that is also accurate and in weird ends, others believed a heartfelt direct apology might help quell the uproar. A assuming he truly wanted to repair the working relationship. Yet, even an apology could backfire if the new documents Marvel had alluded to were as damaging as whispers claimed. For fans, the confusion grew daily. The comedic actor they once adored was at the center of not only a high-stakes lawsuit, but also swirling allegations that his wife effectively orchestrated the meltdown of the Deadpool franchise. The internet latched onto dramatic headlines. Blake Lively destroys Deadpool. Ryan's silence, sheer guilt, or Marvel Wars, Reynolds versus Feige. Meanwhile, business ramifications piled up. Studios that had lined up future partnerships with Ryan began hitting the pause button. They needed clarity on whether the Marvel lawsuit might evolve into a messy court affair, riddled with damaging revelations. If so, any production featuring Ryan risked being overshadowed by ongoing legal drama. For someone who had seamlessly juggled multiple brand endorsements, ranging from gin to mobile services, this spelt serious trouble. Companies typically shy away from celebrities embroiled in headline-grabbing lawsuits, fearing brand tarnish. Even newly minted fans who discovered him through Deadpool were left in limbo, uncertain if they'd ever see him don the red suit again. Blake did not emerge unscathed. Some questioned how she would navigate her own career in the wake of these revelations. Her public statements had already been called into question by her ex-lawyer's pointed exit. Now, with Marvel stepping in, it seemed plausible that her behind-the-scenes strategies had ignited a bigger bonfire than she ever intended. Observers noted that the once lustrous public image she enjoyed, glamorous but approachable, comedic yet genuine, had suffered a significant blow. Directors and producers who might otherwise have cast her grew wary of potential drama. Why risk a project sinking under the weight of negative press? The rest of the Marvel cinematic ecosystem also felt ripples of the conflict. Cast mates from various films quietly questioned whether Deadpool's prospective crossovers would be shelved or drastically reworked to exclude Ryan. A few well-known Marvel figures expressed sadness at how the star they once saw as a friend or colleague had become entangled in a feud with the studio that had bet so heavily on him. Others remained tight-lipped, deferring to Marvel's corporate line that legal matters were ongoing and confidential. Still, speculation soared regarding the lawsuit's specific claims: breach of contract, trademark concerns, defamation, possibly a combination. Some industry veterans guessed that Marvel might contend Ryan's alleged behind-the-scenes manipulations created an environment that harmed future Deadpool projects. If, for instance, Ryan truly engaged in strong-arm tactics or threatened negative coverage if demands were not met, that could contravene moral or professional conduct clauses in his contract. The mention of the brand's integrity in Marvel's statement hinted that the company was treating the matter as more than just a creative spat. This was about the entire Marvel cinematic identity. Lawyers not involved in the case pointed out that it's rare for a studio to sue a star of Ryan's caliber, one so integral to a franchise. The fact that it happened underscores the severity of the allegations, or the breakdown of trust. Even if the dispute never reaches a courtroom, the very act of filing a lawsuit suggests Marvel had exhausted less confrontational options, like private mediation or contract renegotiation. For a brand that usually keeps controversies behind closed doors, going public was a massive step. Out in the public sphere, fans voiced disillusionment, frustration, or unwavering loyalty. Some believed Ryan was being scapegoated, suspecting that Marvel had internal issues with Deadpool's R-rated style, now using the controversy as pretext to part ways. Others argued the studio had no reason to sabotage its own profitable property, concluding that Ryan's apparent role in the Baldoni Lively fiasco must have been more serious than casual watchers realized. Hashtags calling for justice for Deadpool surfaced, as did plenty of jokes about how Deadpool would sue right back. Caught in the vortex of speculation was Justin Baldoni. While his name had become a staple in tabloids, he pressed forward with his film, determined not to let the drama overshadow the heartfelt essence of the original novel. He said little about Marvel's lawsuit, focusing instead on ensuring a calm, set environment. colleagues noticed that, ironically, the very fiasco that had overshadowed his production might now overshadow Marvel. Industry insiders even mused that the swirl of free publicity, albeit chaotic, could funnel extra attention to Justin's film once it was released. With each passing day, the question looms, can Ryan salvage his standing? Hollywood is notorious for both swift downfalls and dramatic comebacks. If the lawsuit reveals misconduct that fans find unforgivable, his comedic brand might never fully recover. If, however, he presents evidence that counters Marvel's claims or frames them as misunderstandings, he could possibly endure. Much hinges on how the lawsuit unfolds, and how intricately Marvel is prepared to detail the alleged damage inflicted upon the Deadpool franchise by Ryan's or Blake's behind-the-scenes moves. Meanwhile, for the rest of the industry, the saga sends a potent warning. The notion that personal feuds or external meddling can topple even the most bulletproof synergy has become glaringly real. Assets might face swift retribution if they run afoul of corporate priorities. Even a studio like Marvel, typically loyal to its lead talents, can pivot abruptly if it believes brand stability is threatened. No one knows how far the legal battle might stretch. It could end abruptly with an out-of-court resolution, letting both parties spin the outcome in their favor, or it could escalate, culminating in a trial that publicly airs every message, negotiation excerpt, and behind-the-scenes demand. Should that happen, the revelations could dwarf any storyline a Hollywood screenwriter might invent. For now, the entire spectacle stands as a testament to how fleeting the line is between stardom and scandal. Blake Lively's initial push against Justin Baldoni, intended or not, set in motion events that are now shaking the Marvel juggernaut. Ryan, who built a comedic empire on the wisecracking mercenary Deadpool, finds himself facing a lawsuit from the very studio that once embraced his irreverent style. And Marvel, historically adept at triumphing over every challenge from competitor franchises to shifting fan tastes, has now waded into rare legal territory against one of its biggest stars. In the court of public opinion, the verdict remains unsettled. Some fans still hold out hope that the tension can be repaired, allowing Ryan to star in future Deadpool adventures. Others believe the damage is too deep, and that Marvel might recast or retire the character rather than risk further turmoil. Regardless of the ultimate outcome, the entire ordeal underscores a fundamental truth. In a landscape governed by mega franchises, even the slightest cracks in trust can lead to seismic consequences. If those cracks reveal hidden power plays and questionable methods, the resulting quake can topple reputations with frightening speed.